Yep.
Hi guys, to your September monthly. So I pulled a few cards that is going to be pretty much for all of us. Maybe our messages, maybe our reading, general reading for basically this transition. And it's kind of like really telling to me. It starts with Milky Way. It was the first card that came through it, and it kind of like really got me giggling because I am rewatching those series through the wormhole with Morgan Freeman. So if you haven't seen it, it's kind of like really interesting to really see how basically that physics interact with most likely even our spirituality, and how we are comprehending those, I mean, additional or alternate realities, right? Because as you know, Earth is the part of the Milky Way, but Milky Way has probably billions, you know, it is probably one of billions of galaxies that we actually know in the universes that we are absorbing, right? It has, I don't know, billions, probably 400 billion stars, and it is the one that is the closest to the sun. And it's kind of like interesting because they have managed to, everything that you see in the sky is basically past. You're not seeing the present because it takes time for the light to come and reflect. So everything that we see is not really what is going on in that moment. So it's kind of like a concept in itself that kind of like we need to kind of like wrap our head around. So this, it's kind of like really interesting for this month because we are going through basically Virgo transition and actually also Libra, so I can see actually both kind of like sending their own messages, right? So this is really telling us to regain our perspective. Maybe we strayed away, maybe we kind of like lost gravity, maybe certain people don't gravitate toward us or we don't gravitate toward them, right? It simply kind of like it is time to possibly step back and then allow ourselves to detach in order to kind of like gather information, right? And it's kind of like going into that internal aspect of ourselves that kind of like observes life instead of life basically happen to us, right? It also is basically telling us to look at things from different point of view, from kind of like understanding that, hey, we are part of this big universe, right? We kind of need to kind of like understand not only where our position is, but also how everything can affect us and how maybe even the small emotion can affect the entire basically universe. So it's kind of like really interesting because the next time is Dreamtime, and this is kind of like this beautiful story. And I know that the Australians are going to correct me because this is talking about the Aboriginals of Australia, right? And this is basically their place that exists before time. So it's just like when I saw these cards coming out, I was really giggling because this also talks about how basically Earth was formed, right? And they're talking about that they had this ancestral ancient ancestral, what is the word, spirits that kind of like remained in the kind of like very forms that was created, so including all these animals and hills and stars and all this kind of like other features that we kind of like see around us. It's basically kind of like basically continue to present today their gods, right? So this is really talking about our either individual but also I believe group spiritual template that kind of, in particularly in this card, talks about things that have been passing down from one generation to another. So we are talking about at least 60,000 years, although those aboriginals would say they existed since the beginning of time. So in one those traditions, right, there is this creation story that is involving this Daijiraidu, which I think it's pronounced, and correct me if I'm wrong, this kind of like hollow, right, log that kind of like emits kind of like woo, that kind of like droning sound when kind of like is being played. It's kind of like really nice. It's kind of like really gets you into this vibration, and you kind of like really start feeling that connection when you hear it. So, you know, kind of like it is again time to kind of like sink deeply and understand that sort of like you are that crossover between spirit and physical reality. So it's like a breathing, comes in and comes out. What are you letting in and what are you letting out? Maybe it's going to be kind of like some kind of realization, because this is very much like Hermit card. It talks about solitude. No, it doesn't talk about loneliness. It really talks about the quality that we need to have in order to kind of like understand that, you know, sometimes we need to pull things inside of us to understand, express our own creativity. Maybe something got stuck. Maybe there was like sort of like stalemate. Maybe for some reason certain things couldn't happen. Maybe they're not part of the big picture, right? Because it could be that you're talking about a person. This is this card called Loyal Heart. And it's kind of like really amazing to really see, because as you know, Libras are always kind of like thinking in those terms, right? That, you know, there is like this royalty. And what I really like about this card is like that these two owls are actually looking in each other's eyes. So there is like this big heart, and there is like this big understanding between the two of them. This kind of like I really feel was more or less talking about us personally needing to reconnect. Maybe we got disconnected. We need to reconnect and understand how our actions are affecting other people. That also, even on the lonely island, the tree is going to grow and be magnificent, and nothing is going to stop, not even a storm, because the light always can be found, right? Maybe we need to find Loyal Heart. Maybe that is what is happening, because I really think this is really addressing the later part of the month, but that's maybe some kind of like self-understanding that we need to kind of like come to. Maybe this is really talking about our partnerships and friendships and romantic relationships, right? Maybe they have some qualities in common. It is really good to kind of like see this, because part of this reflection is going to be, this is the mirror of me, right? So this is really talking about also us being dedicated and devoted back to our friends, to kind of like express that faithfulness. And I really think it's going to really be all around, kind of like understanding that maybe we pushed too far or we didn't do enough, and kind of like coming into this balance. It is kind of like really, really interesting, because this is telling me that your kind of like long-term loyalty to your goals is going to become kind of like very evident in this world of conditions where, you know, all our aspirations for success kind of like sometimes assume form kind of like in reality, but success is nonetheless looks like taking shape, and it was inside job over here. From what I see, we kind of like really need to kind of like in all this kind of like process stay flexible, because if we are inflexible, what do you expect to come out of that process? We kind of like have to kind of like come to this kind of like bigger perspective that is basically talking about here. So I really would not advise any kind of like stubbornness of any kind. Now, interestingly enough, that we did get here Thunderbolt and the Outsider. None of them is a good card. So it is really telling me this is that basically Tower card. But here, as you can see, lots of people are jumping off instead of from Tower, from here. This is really telling me about ego death. It is really telling me that we need to shed some aspects of ourselves that maybe we were like really holding on for such a long time. Maybe we kind of like felt as an outsider. We could always maybe meet people who would always keep us, some kind of like foot away, or kind of like it was always a distance that we couldn't somehow overcome, even if we tried it. The truth is, like, this came reversed. So this is telling me that maybe something is happening, that we are even clueless about something, because we all build our own egos, we all build our own life. It's basically all this house of cards. It's like all that ego stuff, where especially we are getting really like more and more kind of like divided with choices, and we don't have any more universal news and universal things, and we keep looking for things that will reinforce our basically already viewpoint. And this is really telling me that this is something that you are needing to really deal with. Maybe this month you want to kind of try to just to listen to something different, attend to classes that otherwise you wouldn't attend, kind of like really talk to people who are much different. Because look at this card. Hello, hello, who came to say hi to everybody? Say hi. Say hi here to camera. That's it, pretty girl, walk up. So this is kind of interesting, because some people don't like when my kitty cat Sapphire comes over here. And this divining, it's all about observation, and it's intuition. Intuition usually kicks in and clues in when you are really observant of this perspective. And this perspective is like, this is what happened. Just like as I was saying, some friendships and some kind of like love relationships will become coming to you to acknowledge that. Just like Safi jumped in, said hi, and I love you. And I really think this is like something we can really look forward. I think there are some conditions though, and these conditions would be few things that we really need to figure out. Also, maybe what obstacles we have created, and if this is a really big deal, or how to really kind of like get off that high horse, how important we are, because we live in really strange times, right? And this card, as I was just about to say, look at us through this fence, how beautiful these colors are. And of course, this little child looking inadequate, it's kind of like looking what is out there. I really, really want to be there, and what's going on. Maybe the child is in the garden and looking out, but maybe looking into something else. Now, I think the key in this picture is this basically chain. And look at this chain. It is opened. It doesn't take much to really take away this chain. So now these two cards together, what do you chain yourself to it? What kind of beliefs are you holding that maybe need to be released? You have to figure out if something that you were really holding as really important. This is who I am. Without this, I cannot live. Try to shed all these kind of like core principles to a minimum, and you will see how you're going to really be able to embrace more people as well as to be embraced. So this is kind of like a general part of the reading, and now we are going to go in the individual signs. Guys, I still have the speed up promotion. Still, if you order your own reading, you will get it much shorter. So instead of 3 weeks, you're getting in a week for the regular one. Instead of 1 week for a rush one, you're going to get it in 3 days. And urgent, it used to be 3 days, now it's like 24 hours. So kind of like make your pick, and you can check it via my website, cattarot.ca. From that point, you will just need to contact me and you're all set. And of course, nothing beats private reading. This is just your energy and me, and we are really looking down and trying to find not only what's up, but also what is the best way out of it. And this is it. Let's start with this month's Taroscopes. Hi Leo, your reading is last for the September monthly. You know, there is a German basically saying Zucker comes to last. I'm not so sure if I'm pronouncing this perfectly well, meaning sugar comes to the end, meaning the dessert is the very last meal. So there you go. It's kind of like going to probably go in that direction. So you have the cards, as you have seen, jumping out. You have this Knight of Wands, and it sometimes represents Sagittarians, so I don't know if you have any Sagittarians in your life, and some kind of like team building, and some kind of like maybe new kind of like dating, kind of like a zest. This also can represent somebody who is really not staying in your life, but somebody who is like, let's say, interesting enough that you still kind of like want to give them that space in your life, with religious factors underneath. And especially because you also have the Devil card, I feel this reading is going to get interesting. So let's get to this major that showed up there. Because you also have the King of Wands hiding underneath, which kind of like is you. And it's kind of like talking about trying to stabilize, trying to do that. And that kind of like would be the whole kind of like point of this card as well. You see, the Devil is really talking about us sometimes repeating the karmic lessons, being stuck in a circle of events, and instead of learning the lesson and having either the backbone or strength. And this is your card, the strength, which kind of like this is almost opposing card. So it's complete lack of strength, because look, they're actually chained. And not only they're chained, like we can all be chained, but they're actually more than willing, or for some reason acting out of their character. Look at this kitty here, is thinking she is a dog. Cocker Spaniel. This kitty here thinks is a rabbit, right? So the Devil is like really talking about somehow us falling into bad habits, falling into bad company, falling in emotional kind of like void. But when the Devil reverses, it's kind of like saying to us that actually we are starting to understand. We kind of like see this like past habits. We see how our indecision and weakness kind of like affected us, right? So this is kind of like telling us that we really need to confront our problems head on and make amends, and also avoiding any emotional outbursts. So this Devil reverse can actually also indicate enslavement and control through fear or illusion. So are you feeling that somebody is going to leave you? Are you willing to believe in those all the rosy stories, right? And the person who, you know, like, I mean, is basically probably harming you or pulling the strings is also the person who actually knows your weaknesses. It's almost like a symbiotic relationship. They kind of latch onto this, like, I mean, weakest link, and they're like harvesting. And the more they harvest, the weaker you will get. And that's the problem with this card, right? It's kind of like that feeling of being overburdened and kind of like not being able to kind of like stand up for yourself. Kind of like it's a time to escape that situation that is maybe keeping you trapped. It's usually happening through intellectual manipulation, through enslaving, through narcissism, through somebody's self-absorption. You know, how can you even enter a relationship and saying, I'm better than you are? Maybe you are, but then why are you in that relationship? Why don't you find a balance, right? So if you really want to be coached for someone, then the other person needs to be willing to be coached. You just cannot kind of like spout things at a person and expect, oh, they're just going to jump and do it. Honey, you need to lose 40 pounds, right? Who the hell are you, and who put you in charge, kind of a thing. So this is kind of like understanding that that somebody is kind of like overindulgent and maybe even hedonistic, right? And you kind of like at the stage of warned that everything has a price to be paid. So it is kind of going to be interesting reading, as I said, because to some extent this person is like very interesting to you, and you kind of like feel you can or you want to build that bond. And you see, this is like sometimes delusion that we have, because hey, I will try it, what's the worst thing that can happen to me? I'll tell you what's the worst thing that can happen to you. You being bawling your eyes, being depressed, cutting your veins, killing yourself, this person taking your money, your dignity, your friends away. That's what can happen, because people always kind of like sanitize what can happen. So you have to kind of like be ready to understand that this kind of like slips with people like that can be kind of like really devastating in the long run. You can imagine I don't like this card. So let's see what else what else is new. But look at this playfulness and new love and true love. There is this free yourself. That's this kind of like little kind of like preaching part that I had over here, because it is a good news when it reverses. I'm sorry I had to be really harsh, but you know, sometimes people don't get a point. They go, yeah, just move on. This, guys, is not, this tarot reading is not an entertainment. Yes, you can take it as entertainment if you wish. You can take car as a picture and something beautiful, but it is transportation. It does have a function. Function here is for you to kind of like ascend, to get to this higher spiritual level, to understand you more. This is a form of art therapy, and it is allowing us to see ourselves through these basically faces of these cards and through these archetypal messages that we are getting over here, right? Because you guys, as I can see over here, you kind of like want to move forward. There was like this sense of feeling captive in a situation, because look here, you have this like free yourself, take back control of your life. And that's, I can see this happening. I can see you kind of like regaining that strength and that will and that zest. And look at this karma card over here. Oh wow, oh wow, oh wow, what I see here. Look at that. We are having 9s, we are having 10s, and we are having 1. Well, that's a good news. Good news, because the shift is happening. The shift is happening in some kind of like self-understanding. So in the past, I can see that certain things, as we've seen in this devil card, let's put this card out here. As we have seen in this devil card, things kind of like probably went up and down, and mostly they were down. Mostly, maybe one person in the relationship was a heavy giver, another one was like heavy taker. And it works as long as you don't change the rules of a game. But guess what's going to happen? It doesn't kind of like happen, oh, I give you this much, I take this much. Person wants more and more and more. You know that saying, like, I mean, give them a finger, they want this whole arm. And that's kind of like what I see happening. And it looks like you freed yourself. It's kind of like this understanding, hey, you know what? After all, you guys are represented with a strength card, with this kind of like taming that lion, with this like enormous ability to understand. Look at this like second karma card. And that is you, Queen of Wands. We did have here King of Wands reversed. So I think the partner has been cut off for some of you, and you are like going in a completely new circle of karmic destiny. So you have resolved some issues. This could be given this devil there, codependency, because these two cards are really kind of like karmic, that kind of like keep going in many different directions. Also in some decks, in the regular decks, the Wheel of Fortune has this like 4 fixed signs: Aquarius, Taurus, Scorpio, and Leo, kind of like on their basically edges. So this is kind of like really reinforcing that you were losing yourself. You were maybe clingy in a relationship. Maybe you didn't feel you have an even keel with somebody, right? There was an issue which kind of like had to be discussed. Getting to know each other is very tricky, and don't read the stuff. As you reveal your innermost selves to each other, your bond deepens. No, the bond can deepen, but the bond can actually really go in different direction. Because you see the religious cards, interesting, like you still have released your ex. Religious factors, it can be a card of marriage. maybe you wanted marriage, maybe they didn't want a marriage, maybe somebody was married. Because in getting to know each other, you kind of like are spending time. The more you spend time with people, the more you understand, is this person having moral fiber and character that I will be able to trust this person 2 years, 5 years, 7 years from now. If you're already kind of like what they call playing poker with sweaty palms, meaning everybody knows you have nothing, you cannot bluff nobody, right? This person is simply going to kind of like, that's kind of like that psychopathic kind of thing. But there is like here this essence of true love, and I think you guys cannot be defeated, and this is kind of like a loving combination. It is really telling me that there are like some kind of like wings, and owl here is definitely talking about being wise. And whether or not, because it does look like it was a breakup, and the biggest problem in the breakup was that you have lost ability to trust. But it looks like you did speak for yourself, which kind of like was this entering this new process, this new direction. Knight of Chalice is reversed, and King of Swords. Oh my God, look at this. We have the Knight of Swords, we have a King of Swords. The King of Swords can also represent the Judge. It kind of looks like there was some kind of manipulation. I really don't like Kings reversed. They can be brutal, but I don't even like Knights reversed even more, because this Knight here is telling you everything that almost like in your mind you're envisioning. You know, they would even kind of like get you. That's kind of like the prototypical con man. Well, you know, what would you like? And then you go blah 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 like a little child. And that's why, you know, you guys being Queen of Wands, that's why this kitty is here telling you don't blob everything out, because people take advantage of this. And that's why people say listen to what people tell you, because they tell you everything about themselves. So if a guy or woman say, you know what, I'm not good, I always cheat, run, because they just told you, right? Like their worst enemy would like not be kind of like that cruel, I guess, toward that. So this is kind of like a person who listens to what you say, and you say, oh, well, I want a marriage, I want kids, I want this like white picket fence, and then they kind of like regurgitate that to you. Oh, you know what, like when we get married, we're going to have this white picket fence. So you are kind of like led down the garden path, right? So this is like now telling me there's going to be some essence of balance. Maybe you're going to receive some kind of justification regarding something or somebody who has done you wrong. Because I'm seeing here, like interesting that we have like Three of Pentacles here. You really wanted to build something, but it doesn't look like they wanted. It almost like looks like they were destructive. That, or there is a situation that you're going to encounter this month, because this is the core of your reading after all. So Eight of Pentacles is like that kind of card of working hard, and that kind of like would be relationships. What else we need to do to go to the next level? What kind of details? But here is kind of like you are driving through the basically stop sign. You're kind of like not paying attention to the obvious. And interestingly, 8 and 7 is 15. It's again driving me back to, guys, you know, maybe you were on the wings of love, because you have like also the Knave of Pentacles. Somebody had different plans while you made the joint plans. They had a plan on their own, and it was not a plan to kind of like team up. That playfulness is very appealing to you, I see, because, well, that would indicate higher intelligence when you're like when you're attracted to people who are different or who are playful. But there is also inherent danger in that these people are erratic, that you cannot go same old and same old, because they do not react the same way. And sometimes staying around too long without having results can actually take you down. Now, I think that this still goes back to kind of like feeling difficulty in moving in a new direction. There is like this essence of, I'm not ready. Look at this kitty. He just kind of barely opened his little eye. Oops. See this? Yeah. Turtle. Look at this. They're like all these milk glasses. And it's like, oh, okay, this is a special milk. It's all warmed up. It's kind of like delivered by this kind of like bartender. I'm not going to bother. So see, that's the whole thing. if if you kind of like go down this path, you are not moving toward your destiny, because their destiny is looming over here. You have this new love, you have this Four of Cups, the Moon reversed, and Five of Wands. So there is like some kind of clarity that you need to understand about the past, because the Moon is again that phase of 9. It's kind of like sometimes we get stuck. We get stuck in a relationship. We get stuck when we are out of this relationship. Oh, he or she did this to me, or oh, I have to get over it, or I will never be with a person who is like that. And that's why we have the kitty and the dog barking at the moon, completely kind of like a waste of time if you really think about it. The towers are the structures that we build, and only the freaking lobster here understands, well, wait a minute, I will get what I want. You see, the moon is also talking about Luna and lunacy, where the perceptions are not sharp, and you cannot really run like, I mean, fast through basically the moonlight, because you kind of like really don't see what is kind of like in front of you unless you already know the path in and out. So this card is really talking about boundaries, and you kind of like really want something solid, because the moon reversed is like going toward the sun. So you're sort of like, I think, still defining certain things for you. I think you feel injustice, I would say, and hence there is like not a full engagement. Some of you are actually also feeling very happy being on your own from what I see, and kind of the feeling that that situation is bringing less kind of like problems. But this month is going to be turnaround month for you, because we are in a year 11. September is a month 11, and then just think about what's going to happen around the 11th or in the 11th. It's going to be really, really crucial date, and it is like that spiritual shift, which kind of like for you have already started. Is going to probably click in place on that date, because as I said, the trust is difficult after this breakup, or after something that looks like you have really put everything, not a little bit, everything, maybe even more than 100%, and there was like something that just didn't work out. It's like Two of Cups reversed. You could have been dealing with somebody who is married. You have like this King of Pentacles and somebody who has been highly manipulating, and there you go, there is like that fear, and there is like that Eight of Swords. You see the kitty blindfolded trying to get down, and it's kind of like a scary proposition, right? So interestingly enough, maybe it looks like moving on, and as much as you know that you have been manipulated, that somebody was taking advantage of the situation, I'm pretty sure I'm going to hear it from you all in the comments. You also know that you have to be fearless, that there was like something that was like binding you, those kind of like chains to this person, and it's kind of like, look, time to, if you wish, bury the dead. This now is really interesting. You may have been dealing with somebody who is a Scorpio, but this card also, the Death card, is actually the card that means something needs to end, and maybe something ended officially, but it's still ongoing in your head, because you're also getting this card for giving and learning, and I'm agreeing with this inscription. As you release and heal the past, you experience more love in present moments. So yes, healing the past is the key. The death is like understanding something is just not sustainable, couldn't ever work. That's what needs to click, because we always have this, oh, they're just going to come back, they're going to say they're sorry, they're going to say you are the one. You know, chances of that happening are just as equal as winning the lottery, because people do not change. And that's why I said you need to pay attention to what people are saying to us. We're getting a Pentacles reversed again. You had like there, where the heck it was, this knave. Now you have the Knight of Pentacles, and here you have the King of Pentacles. So Knight of Pentacles is again something that couldn't work forward, couldn't go forward, for a very simple reason, that this person was not your friend. This person didn't, you see, what is the difference between relationship and friendship? Relationship is well, both of them are conditional. We don't have unconditional relationships, basically. But if, in comparison, friendship is more unconditional, because you're generally around a person for no other reason because you want to be there. But in the relationship, there are like intricacies, right? There is like this love, there is like this adrenaline, there it is like, physical intimacy, the transfer of that energy that is happening more and more. So something had really happened here that couldn't even get this person to be a friend, or you maybe relegate this person to a friend zone, but even that is not working, or vice versa. There was like, and then you have another 4, just like this sleeping, dreaming kitty who doesn't want anything. It is kind of like, leave me alone. It is like the essence of needing to kind of like pull it in. When I see this card, I always think there will be no phone calls, there will be no communication, and I can see it, but it's kind of like to heal. It's kind of like to pull it in together and kind of like move forward. There is like a huge healing energy, huge kind of like having your own kind of like a big goal, big star where you are heading. So if this means, hey, you know what, when I come home, I'm going to soak in the bathtub and I'm going to have the special salts, or I have like the special, I call them chakra lights. They're just simply kind of like disco lights, some kind of like form, and you dip them in the water, and then the entire water and the foam is kind of like in a color that you designate, and you can even have the kind of like fading in and out. That is healing your senses. It's almost like a massage for your soul. And I think you will undergo lots of things like that, because this entire, and the name of the game this month is wisdom. And here you have the hermit. Hermit is one of those god kind of like creatures in tarot, and it's kind of like saying this could be the one. So maybe you know, some people here, when I read the comments, some people comment, oh, he or she is my twin flame. Well, how do you know? Did you check? Because it's such a hair thin difference between twin flame and karmic soulmate and soulmate. So sure enough, you could think, well, he's the one or she's the one who got away. But a hermit is like that lovely essence of, and that again can be Virgo, can be Aquarius, lovely essence of kind of like following your own drummer, kind of like finding your answers and not paying attention how you look, what you have, or what somebody else has. It's just like simply kind of like coming with this universal answers for yourself, which kind of is very important. The Empress reversed, and then you have like the 3 of Cups reversed. Now, so this is the answer to yourself you need about love. And I really think, because the Empress is the mother card, the Empress is the feminine principle, the soft principle, something that we need in a relationship, somebody that is there to help you, not somebody who is going to harp on some weaknesses, right? Then again, this is the card of friendship, but reverse, there is obviously lack of it. So there is like sort of like, almost like I feel you're saying, why have I done this to myself? So how could I be so wrong? And that's also a wrong direction to go. You cannot beat yourself up over what other people do. Listen to what the heck they're saying about themselves. And everything is like this karmic exercise, and for you it was that you maybe realize there are people like that, and they might be your soulmates. So guys, check your karma reading with me. I can read your Akashic records. You will see what you put on the plate for you this life, for this kind of like time being, and then clean the slate and try it again 6 months later to see how much of this like you work through it. It's kind of amazing that your horoscope signs in the past lives, in the future lives, everything is coming through. You're getting a better understanding. I'm attracted to those Capricorns. Now I know why, kind of a thing, because there is like this motion of things that we always kind of like trying to get the higher depth, right? Higher depth, oxymoron. So this is like your outside. This is like your environment. And again, it's talking about clearly deciding. So it's set, aim, go kind of a thing. Look, free yourself, clearly decide where you're going. Kind of treat yourself. this month, I know the last month was the birthday month, but guys, you're like Leos and Leonesses. It's always good to understand what makes you happy, and that's the cozy place you're at. And we have the Queen of Pentacles reversed, and Nine of Pentacles again. So maybe you're getting out of marriage situation, because like we had the King of Pentacles and now we have the Queen of Pentacles, both reversed. So it's telling me that it's going to be kind of like a solemn month, but not in a bad way. Look at here, we have the Nine of Pentacles, and here we have 1. So the shifting month, because again, remember, 11th year, 11th month, we have like all these kind of like days that are going to be very kind of like trigger prone. So you kind of like really have to understand a few things. You know what they say? Well, you know The Bachelorette? I used to watch this series, and I don't know which was the last one I watched with Diana. And so Diana is a good example, but she picked a guy who was interesting, that snowboarder or whatever. She didn't pick the guys who kind of like had that deep kind of like thing, who maybe so she had this guy Graham, and Graham didn't want to commit, but he actually wanted her to kind of like do everything, so she needs to kind of get rid of all these guys since it's him, and he might think about it. So not a good choice. The other guy that she picked, whatever his name is, Jesse, and Jesse was like so much fun, but he was like having too much fun. And she had like this deep kind of like energy in her. I think she was a Scorpio, where she really needed somebody who is a mix, but sort of like in what they say, kind of like good on the paper, and boring, I'm falling asleep. But this is kind of like what I see. It's kind of like understanding the qualities. And first of all, you have to start exercising these qualities yourself. Are you good on the paper? And what makes you happy? Because it looks like that's kind of like direction of this particular kind of like month. So the heavy burdens kind of like are still there. There's like still something upsetting you. There's like still something that you are carrying on with you. How about dropping them? How about just for the basically exercise sake, go there and just flirt and just kind of like have fun? Like you have the the Chariot, and then you have the Six of Pentacles. That again goes back to some commitment. I guess the heavy burden that you have is that somebody didn't want to commit, and again, that is like this back and forth energy. So there is like this 6 energy that we have here. Again, that kind of like soulmate card, but that soulmate card, and I don't know, it could be Cancer, and as well, in addition to all these other Virgo, Aquarius that I've seen, Scorpio, Taurus. What else do I see? Capricorn, Sagittarius, Pisces. Lots of signs are popping up, and earth signs as well. So this would be Cancer, kind of like, hey, something just really is getting derailed, right? Off the rails. So what went off the rails is, again, just like in this card when I was talking about setting boundaries. So when you don't set proper boundaries and you continue barking to the moon, maybe you're setting boundaries, and that's even worse, just like in this card. No, you're not going to do this. Is my mouse, my mouse, my mouse. In the meantime, the little mousey just like escapes. So you also have to reinforce it. Just like, imagine somebody breaks into your house and you say, no, forever, and just start taking things. So if you do nothing, you're going to feel actually even worse. Once when you set boundaries, you have to act accordingly, right? Which kind of like it tells me maybe you didn't, maybe you thought you did. Now, like, you know, the vision is 2020, and it's kind of like, because this is the category of hopes and fears, that kind of like this is falling there. But you guys will actually succeed in kind of like getting that later feeling. It looks like it's going to be a really nurturing month, and really treating yourself with emotional satisfactions. That could be good food. It's not going to be diet month, I have to tell you. King, Queen, the Knight of Pentacles, it's kind of like you're not going to feel by the end of the month the same way you felt when it entered. It's going to be a big shift. You're kind of like officially moving in the new phase, and you officially are realizing like some, let's say, ill-fated attraction, that maybe the people that you generally are attracted to, yes, they could be intriguing and interesting and fun, but they don't last. So if you want a long term, which it looks like you do, you need to choose long term, right? So we have a saying in Europe, I'm not rich enough to buy cheap stuff. And my mom kind of drilled it inside of me. So I always buy maybe not the best, but top of the line. And this kind of like really lasts me a long time. So do you really want to buy and go for something faulty that is going to be just broken in an instant? Or you really want to go something for long term? Sometimes you will suffer. If you buy a couch and you want it to last 20 years, you'll be, yeah, bored. It's not the modern trend and everything. But the whole key there is to find kind of like what different aspects of this you can still apply, because it's something that's going to last. Because I can see here the new beginning, calling in your soulmate, and kind of like all this work that you did on yourself, that maybe you're feeling, oh my God, it's like never ending thing. When is this going to stop? It's just like feeling that you're falling through and not able to kind of really find your sea legs. Actually, by the end of this month, you will feel better. And there you are. It's your card, the Sun, and it is like Two of Pentacles reversed. So it's going to be some kind of like good feeling in knowing that you're controlling yourself. You're going to actually have a complete grasp if people come to you, because look, it's One of Pentacles and we're going at Two, and it's also Two reversed. So Two is like this kind of like life and balance, and also people who come in our life, and people who juggle, and maybe somebody who's juggling relationships, maybe somebody who's juggling marriages. So I don't know, like on the other hand, this can be seen that some of you are still wooing somebody who is in a marriage, who is in a relationship. But ultimately, I think the Sun card is again calling you, because you had the Moon reversed and now you have the Sun. This is generally a really good news in a reading, even though both of them are reversed. So it's still talking about this work. But look at this, going from a complete darkness to maybe life, maybe the sun that is on a sunset. It's still great, because you have to realize and acknowledge and give yourself a pat on the shoulder that you did go through some kind of like enormously huge and deep process, and that you kind of like not only survive, but you kind of like are having a completely new perspective, maybe almost like a paradigm shift, that, you know, one type of a person is just no longer your type, and you know exactly why, and you know exactly the questions you're going to ask in a relationship. That's big. That's really, really big. So Leo, again, this is a general reading, so check your ascendant, check your moon. That way you can put more puzzles together. Of course, as I said, always, nothing beat private reading. And my private readings are not necessarily, oh, you know, so-and-so, you know, going to happen. Yes, of course, there is like some kind of like flow. But this is supposed to kind of like make you into a stronger person, and to kind of like help you kind of like reach kind of like this ultimate thing, which is not different for other people. We ultimately all want love. We all want happiness. Only thing is we are getting there through different paths. And my readings are usually dedicated to kind of like really help you get there. So, my Leo, I pulled one more card for you, and you got Magic Stream. So let me read this for you. It says, everything is connected through the universal flow of consciousness. Every experience you have seems to have its own life story, with a beginning, a middle, and eventually an end. However, there is danger in seeing events as separate from one another, since in fact they are all part of a continuity and a greater evolution. Like an ever-flowing magic stream, your experiences filter through the whole world, one leading into another, informing and influencing still more. Inspiration, invention, and revelations rarely come to just one person. The collective awareness is a shared storehouse of potential. When you remember you're part of the fluid continuity of life, you become a channel for great inspiration. Allow the magic to flow through you and carry your dreams into reality. Your success will benefit many. Because you guys are very family and very children oriented sign, and hence that strength is really needed. But you also kind of like take everybody as your child and under your wing, and you can also fall an easy prey to unscrupulous people. So this entire new shift that kind of like is going to happen is to allow this magic to kind of like bubble through again, and almost like cleaning the muddy waters for you to kind of like finally get this clarity and to understand what you need to drop, what kind of like a burden, and what kind of people are simply a no-go in your life. So my dear Leos, last but not least, I would love if you can click this button here if you haven't subscribed already yet, and give me your comments, because I really want to know. This is big, and it's maybe something that I can use to teach others, because that's a big shift in perception. So until the next time, don't forget, every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time live session. You have to be present, because each and every time somebody is going to get it, and you have to be there to get this like 15-minute live reading. Another option is just participate in my Facebook and my Instagram and send us a comment and how this kind of like is reflecting to your life, and one person is going to be drawn in that as well. So you know that I love you. You know that my moon is in Leo, so I need to absorb these lessons as well. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Love you.